Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're sitting down for this one because today we are stepping into a world that is equal parts fascinating, hilarious, and frankly, a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, it is certainly a landscape that is shifting under our feet every single day. Shifting is probably too polite of a word. It is more like a massive earthquake.
An earthquake caused by a very specific kind of tectonic plate. We are talking about the rise of the AI influencer today, and to really kick things off, I want to introduce you to a character. Her name is Dolly.
Oh boy, Dolly.
Right. So if you are listening to this, imagine you are scrolling through your feed at 2 in the morning, your eyes are glazed over, and you stumble across Dolly. You would stop. You would definitely stop scrolling.
You absolutely would. There is no question.
Because Dolly is, well, she's this chaotic, unhinged queen. She's starting drama in the comments. She is showing off these wild, physically impossible outfits, and she is just absolutely devouring the algorithm.
And she looks real. That is the thing.
Yeah.
Scarily real.
Exactly. She moves like a human. She has the attitude of a reality TV star on her third glass of wine. But here's the catch. Dolly does not exist.
She is entirely synthetic.
Yeah.
0% biological material.
Right. She is just lines of code, pixels, and a whole lot of really clever prompt engineering. She is the product of this new wave of AI video tools that are making it possible for anyone, literally anyone with an internet connection, to build a digital celebrity from scratch.
And at the center of this Dolly phenomenon, at the absolute center of this storm, is a platform called Higgsfield AI.
Yes. Higgsfield.
Higgsfield's such an interesting case study right now. It is arguably the most polarizing name in the entire generative space.
It really is. I mean, on one side, you have people saying this is the true democratization of Hollywood. They are saying, finally, I can be a director without needing $1 million budget. But on the other side,
It gets ugly.
it gets really ugly. We have a massive stack of reviews here, some exposed videos we've gone through, and they are not holding back. They are calling it a scammy rapper.
The dreaded W word.
Yeah, we are definitely going to get into that. They say it is just hiding other people's technology behind a fancy interface and then charging you a premium for it. So that is the central tension we really need to explore with you today. Are we looking at a legitimate revolution in how we direct digital media?
Or is this just a really expensive, glossy interface for tools that you could just access elsewhere for cheaper?
That is the question. And to answer it, we have to look at what it actually means to direct AI. Because for the last year or so, directing AI has felt a lot less like Spielberg and a lot more like playing a slot machine.
That is the perfect analogy. You put your token in, which is your text prompt, you pull the lever, and you just pray to the algorithm gods that you get 3 cherries.
And usually you don't get cherries. You get a lemon, a cherry, and, I don't know, a picture of a dog with 5 legs.
Right. And the worst part is you can't say to the machine, hey, keep the cherry, but fix the dog. You just have to pull the lever again and hope for a whole new random result. It is randomness. It is not directing. But Higgsfield claims to change that.
They claim to finally give you the steering wheel, so we are going to put that claim to the test today.
We have a massive roadmap to get through.
We really do. We are going to unpack the technology itself, tools with names like Nano Banana Pro.
Which is a real name, somehow.
I still can't get over that. But we will get to it. We'll look at Popcorn, we'll look at Cinema Studio. Then we are going to analyze the model wars. We are going to pit Kling against Google's Veo and OpenAI's Sora to see who actually wins in a head-to-head fight.
And we will definitely discuss the holy grail of AI video, which is consistency. How do you keep a character's face looking like the exact same person across multiple shots?
Because without that, you don't have a movie. You just have a hallucination.
Exactly. And finally, we will address the controversy, the rapper accusations, the unlimited plan issues, and the massive ethical backlash regarding creative jobs.
But first, let's just start with the platform itself, the philosophy of it. What is Higgsfield?
So if you land on their homepage right now, it looks incredibly slick. Dark mode, minimalist text, very Silicon Valley cool. It positions itself as a unified AI studio for creators.
Unified being the key word there.
Right. They are targeting what we call the prosumer. These are people who aren't necessarily Hollywood directors, but they aren't just your aunt trying to make a funny cat gif for Facebook either. They are serious creators. And the main problem Higgsfield is trying to solve for them is fragmentation.
The tab fatigue.
The tab fatigue is so real. Just think about the workflow we have had to use for the last year. You want to make a video. First, you go to Midjourney to generate an image. Then you take that image and drag it into Runway or Pika to animate it.
And then the resolution is terrible, so you have to drag that video into Topaz to upscale it.
Exactly. Then you go to 11 Labs for the voiceover. Then you go to Premiere to edit it all together.
It is a logistical nightmare. That is 5 different subscriptions, 5 different interfaces to learn, 5 different billing cycles hitting your credit card.
Precisely. Higgsfield steps in and says, stop. We will put all of that in one single dashboard. You generate the image, you animate the image, you edit the video, you add the sound all in one place.
So it is essentially a convenience play. It's the TV dinner of AI. You don't have to buy the ingredients separately and cook them. It is all just right there in the tray.
That is a very fair way to put it. But this brings us right to that controversial term we mentioned earlier, the wrapper.
Okay, let's really unpack this because people throw this word around online like it is the ultimate insult. What exactly is a wrapper in this context?
In software terms, a wrapper is simply an interface that sits on top of someone else's technology. It wraps the underlying, often messy code in a nice user experience. In the context of Higgsfield, it means they don't necessarily have their own proprietary brain for everything they offer.
They aren't cooking the meal themselves.
Right. They're ordering takeout from the best restaurants in the city and then plating it really nicely for you on their own china.
So when I log in and use Higgsfield, I am not necessarily using Higgsfield's AI model. I might be using OpenAI or Google or that Chinese model Kling.
Exactly. Through the Higgsfield dashboard, you are actually accessing OpenAI's Sora 2, Google's Veo 3.1, Kling 2.6, and Minimax. It is an aggregator.
So it is like a buffet.
Yeah.
You pay the entrance fee to Higgsfield, and you can eat from the Kling tray or the Sora tray without having to go sign up for all of them individually, which sounds great.
It does sound great, but here is where the friction comes in. And it is significant friction. Critics are pointing out that Higgsfield is reselling these models, often at a massive markup. We looked at a source from a reviewer named Yarrowflasher. He does these really deep technical breakdowns, and he actually did the math.
I love when people do the math on these subscriptions.
He calculated that using Kling through Higgsfield can cost up to 4.5 times the price of just going to Kling directly.
Whoa. 4.5 times. That is a steep convenience fee. That is like paying $20 for a fast food burger just because someone carried it to your table.
It is. And that leads directly to the accusation that it is a scammy wrapper.
Yeah.
If you are tech savvy, if you know how to navigate the native interface for Kling, or if you can manage to get on the wait list for Veo, you look at Higgsfield and say, why on earth would I pay this premium?
But there is a counter argument to that, right? The UI and UX defense.
Right, the user experience. Have you actually seen the raw interface for some of these native models? They are engineered by engineers for engineers. They are clunky. They are sometimes in different languages that you have to translate in your browser. And they have these weird convoluted credit systems.
Yeah, they aren't exactly user-friendly.
Higgsfield gives you a cohesive design system. It is the Apple tax. You aren't paying for the raw computing power. You're paying for the fact that it just works, or at least it is supposed to just work, without you needing a degree in computer science to figure out how to prompt it.
So you are paying for the velvet rope. You are paying to not have to deal with the headache of 5 different tabs. But let's talk about one of their flagship tools, because while they do wrap a lot of things, they claim to have some secret sauce of their own. And this tool has a name that I honestly cannot get over.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Nano Banana Pro.
Nano Banana Pro.
Who named this? Was it a dartboard? A random word generator?
It sounds like a brand of baby food or a smoothie, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But despite the frankly ridiculous name, Nano Banana Pro is their flagship image generation model.
Yep.
And according to the reviews and tests we have seen, specifically for photorealism, it is arguably best in class right now.
Better than Midjourney, because Midjourney has been the king for a while.
It depends on what you want. Midjourney is very artistic. It has a distinct style. It loves painterly lighting. It loves rich textures. Nano Banana Pro, on the other hand, seems optimized for that exact thought of, I took this photo with a high-end Sony camera. It is hyper-real. We are talking 2K and 4K resolution options right out of the gate.
So if I want to generate a stock photo of a boring business meeting that looks flawlessly real, Nano Banana is my guy.
Yes. Or a portrait of a person that looks like it belongs on the cover of a fashion magazine.
How's that?
But, and there is always a but with AI, it has a glitch. A very specific, very weird quirk popped up in multiple user reports we analyzed.
Oh, the clothing thing. I read about this in the notes.
The clothing thing. For some reason, Nano Banana Pro loves, and I mean absolutely loves, to put random text on people's shirts.
Just unprompted.
Completely unprompted. You ask for a man in a black t-shirt. and it gives you a stunningly realistic man in a black t-shirt, but the shirt has the word JAZZ written across it in huge white letters. Or some weird alien gibberish that looks almost like English but isn't.
It is trying to be a fashion designer. It thinks, you know what this minimalist aesthetic needs? A giant logo that says G-Lore-R.
GLRP is the height of fashion in the latent space, clearly.
Yeah.
But let's actually break down why this happens, because it is a great window into how these AI models actually learn about the world.
Yeah, why does it do that? Midjourney used to do that a lot in the early days, too.
It all comes down to the training data. Think about the millions, billions of images these models scrape from the internet. If you look at photos of people online, what are they usually wearing?
Graphic tees, Nike logos, Supreme hoodies.
Exactly. Or they are stock photos that have giant watermarks right across the chest. The AI does not fundamentally understand the concept of a plain shirt as the default state of clothing. To the AI, statistically speaking, a shirt is an object that usually has text or graphics on the chest.
So when it generates a new image, it is just trying to replicate the highest probability of what a shirt looks like in its dataset.
Precisely. It is hallucinating branding because it thinks that is what humans do. We brand ourselves.
That is fascinating. It is not trying to annoy you. It is just trying to fit in. Like, hello, fellow humans, I also enjoy wearing shirts with random text on them.
Exactly. So to get around it, users have to use what is called negative prompting. You literally have to type into a separate box things like no text on shirt, solid color shirt, unbranded, just to get it to stop turning your dramatic, moody scene into a walking billboard.
Which is a small annoyance, sure. But if you are paying that 4.5 times premium for convenience, you kind of want the AI to know that I do not want JAZZ written on my gritty detective's leather jacket.
You certainly do. But this leads us to a much bigger problem. Let's say you get it right. You have a photorealistic image of a person. Nano Banana did its job perfectly, but then you need to generate a second image for the next shot of your movie.
Ah, the shapeshifter problem.
A shapeshifter problem.
Right.
You ask for the exact same guy using the exact same prompt, but now he looks like his cousin, or a completely different person entirely.
And that takes us to section 2, the holy grail of AI video, character consistency. This really is the white whale of the industry right now, isn't it?
It is the single biggest barrier to professional storytelling.
Yeah.
If you are making a film, your main actor cannot change facial structures every time the camera angle shifts. That is just a fever dream. It is not a narrative.
It breaks the immersion immediately. The audience is just sitting there wondering, why did the protagonist suddenly turn into Willem Dafoe for 3 seconds?
Exactly. So Higgsfield has two main solutions for this consistency problem, and this is where they actually start to provide some real value beyond just being a simple wrapper. The first solution is called Soul ID.
Soul ID. Sounds very mystical.
It does, but it is surprisingly practical. Soul ID is essentially a very user-friendly interface for training a custom model on a specific face. In the past, if you wanted to do this, you had to use open-source tools like Dreambooth or Loro.
And that wasn't easy, right?
Not at all. You had to know Python, or at least how to run a complex Google Colab notebook. It was highly technical and very frustrating.
And Higgsfield makes it, what, just drag and drop?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You upload about 20 to 30 reference photos of a person.
Okay, so let's say I want to make our influencer, Dolly. I need 30 photos of her. But if she doesn't exist yet, where do I get the photos to train the model?
Good question. You would use Nano Banana to generate a base image of Dolly that you really like. Then you keep prompting for slight variations of that image until you have a data set of 30 decent shots. Or if you want to put yourself in the movie as the star, you just upload 30 selfies from your phone.
Okay, selfies. Do they need to be specific, like different angles, different lighting?
Yes, you want a good mix. Close-ups, full body shots, side profiles. Good. Even lighting is crucial. You feed these into the Soul ID system, and it takes about 45 minutes on their servers to train a custom miniature model exclusively on that face.
And once it is trained, what do I actually get?
You get a token, a specific keyword. Let's say you name your trained model Jake. You can now go into the prompt box and type Jake in a coffee shop, Jake walking on Mars, Jake scuba diving underwater. And the AI references those 30 original photos every single time to reconstruct his face perfectly.
So it actually retains the bone structure, the eye color, the specific distance between the nose and the mouth?
Yes. It anchors the generation to those physical traits.
That is huge. I mean, that is the literal difference between just generating random stock photos and actually casting a consistent actor for a project.
It is. It allows you to build a recognizable brand around a digital face. But there is a second layer to this consistency puzzle, which is arguably even more interesting for actual filmmakers who want to control the action, not just the face. It is called Higgsfield popcorn.
Popcorn, another food name. They are definitely hungry over at Higgsfield.
Popcorn is a storyboard engine. And this is a really clever piece of tech. Think of it as the bridge between generating a single image and generating a full, coherent movie sequence.
How does it work compared to the slot machine method?
In traditional AI prompting, you generate one image. Then you open a new prompt to try to generate the next scene. But the AI has absolutely no memory of the first image you made. It starts from zero every time. Popcorn changes that entirely. It lets you generate up to 8 frames or scenes at once, all derived from a single prompt or a single reference image.
So it is looking at the whole sequence simultaneously.
It is treating the entire sequence as a single unified context. Think of it like the childhood game of telephone. Usually AI plays telephone with itself, and by the third image, the original message is completely lost. Popcorn forces the AI engine to look at the first image and the last image at the exact same time, filling in the middle frames so the story doesn't drift off the rails.
That is incredibly useful. You can do auto mode where it just figures it out, or manual mode where you tell it frame 1 is standing, frame 2 is walking to the water, frame 3 is swimming.
Exactly. It gives you sequential control.
I saw in the source notes there is an acronym that creators use specifically to manage this consistency when they are storyboarding. BOPA.
Yes, the BOPA framework. If you are listening to this and you want to use these tools seriously, write this down right now. BOPA.
BOPA. Break it down for us. What does it stand for?
Background, outfit, pose, angles.
Background, outfit, pose, angles. Okay, how do I use that?
When you are prompting in Popcorn or using your Soul ID character, you have to be rigorous about these 4 elements. The AI is still easily confused. If you change too many of these variables at the exact same time, the illusion breaks. So if you want total consistency between 2 shots, you lock the background and the outfit. You keep those exact words identical in your prompt. Then you only change the pose or the angle.
Ah, I see. So I can't say Jake in a tuxedo at a fancy cafe and then immediately prompt Jake in swim trunks at the beach and expect it to be the exact same Jake face seamlessly.
You can try, but that is very high-risk behavior for the AI. It associates swim trunks with a different type of body, maybe a completely different harsh sunlight lighting setup. And suddenly, Jake's face changes slightly because the AI thinks, well, swim trunk guys look more like this.
So BOPA is really about discipline. You have to be a strict director and not overwhelm the talent.
Control requires precision. You only change one variable at a time to guide the AI safely from scene A to scene B.
Speaking of guiding the AI, there is one specific feature in Popcorn that just blew my mind when I read about it. The motion control feature.
Oh, this is fascinating. This is effectively rotoscoping for the artificial intelligence age.
Rotoscoping is that old school animation technique, right, where they trace over live action film.
Exactly right. Disney did it back in the day with Snow White. They filmed a real actress dancing on a soundstage, and then the animators literally drew over her frame by frame to get that perfectly realistic human movement. Higgsfield is doing the exact same thing, but mathematically. You upload a reference video, let's say a viral dance trend from TikTok.
Okay, so I go find a video of a professional dancer doing some complicated hip-hop routine.
You upload that video. Then you apply your trained Jake or Dolly character to it. The AI analyzes the underlying skeleton of the real dancer in the video. It tracks where the elbows are, where the knees are, how the hips shift weight. And then it wraps your AI character's skin seamlessly onto that track motion.
So you don't need to know how to dance. You don't need motion capture suits. You just need to find a video of someone who already did the move.
Which, of course, raises its own massive ethical questions about choreography copyright. Can you just digitally steal someone's sick dance moves? But technologically speaking, it is wildly impressive. It allows for complex, sustained movement, shadowboxing, breakdancing, running over uneven terrain, things that pure text prompts almost always fail at.
Because if you just type man dancing into a standard prompt, the AI usually makes him flail his arms around like one of those inflatable tube men at a used car dealership.
Exactly. It doesn't inherently understand rhythm or gravity. But with motion control, it is just borrowing the actual physics from the real-world reference.
All right, so we have our consistent character, we have our storyboard sequence, we have our complex dance moves. Now we need to actually shoot the movie. And this brings us to section 3, the director's chair.
This is really where Higgsfield tries to differentiate itself from being just another image generator. They introduced a suite of features called Cinema Studio 2.0.
And this is where it stops being about typing cool video and starts being about very specific, very nerdy filmmaking terminology.
It is gear fetishism, digitized. Instead of typing cinematic shot into your prompt, which is undoubtedly the most overused and meaningless phrase in the history of AI generation.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. I use it for everything. Cinematic sandwich. Cinematic dog running in the park.
We all do it. Because it used to be the only way to get a decent image. But Cinema Studio says, no, don't tell me it is cinematic. Tell me exactly what camera body you are using to shoot it. You are literally choosing camera bodies and lenses from a drop-down menu.
Let's play around with this. I want to build a shot right now. Let's say I want that crisp, perfect, high-budget Hollywood blockbuster look, the Marvel movie aesthetic. What am I clicking in the menu?
You are going to click the ARRI Alexa 35. That is the current industry standard in real Hollywood. It has incredibly high dynamic range and is very sharp but still looks organic. Selecting that tells the AI, render this scene with perfect fidelity and modern color science.
Okay, now let's flip it completely. I want a moody, dark, gritty detective scene. It is raining, it is nighttime, we are in an alleyway.
For that, you switch your camera body to the Sony Venice. In the real world of cinematography, the Sony Venice is famous for its dual ISO sensor. It basically sees in the dark. If you select this in Higgsfield, the AI attempts to mimic that specific low-light performance. It creates these deep, rich blacks, but it crucially retains the subtle details hidden in the shadows. It gives you that instant neo-noir vibe.
And what if I want to go massive? I want to be Christopher Nolan shooting an epic landscape.
You select IMAX film, 70mm. This fundamentally changes the AI's perceived scale of the generation. It widens the field of view. It adds a very specific type of fine, high-quality film grain. It makes mountains look imposing and people look incredibly small by comparison.
And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, what if I'm doing a low-budget indie thing?
You grab the Flex 16 SR 16mm film.
Ah, this is for the film school kids.
This is the A24 studio vibe. It is grainy. It is a little soft around the edges. It feels like a nostalgic home movie from the 1990s. If you want raw emotion and nostalgia, you pick 16mm.
But the camera body is really just the sensor catching the light. The real flavor, the real visual sauce of a movie comes from the glass, the lenses.
Absolutely. And they have gone incredibly deep here. This is where you can really tell they are trying hard to court actual filmmakers. You have the fundamental choice between spherical and anamorphic lenses.
Okay, for the listener who isn't a film school grad, break that difference down. What is the actual vibe check on those two lens types?
Spherical is reality. It is roughly how your actual human eyes see the world. There is no major distortion, and the out-of-focus lights in the background form clean, perfect circles. Anamorphic, on the other hand, is cinema with a capital C.
What does anamorphic actually do to the image?
In the physical world, an anamorphic lens optically squeezes a really wide image onto a standard square frame of film, and then the projector stretches it back out later. That mechanical stretching process creates very specific visual artifacts. It gives you oval-shaped bokeh, meaning the blurry lights in the background aren't circles anymore, they're tall vertical ovals. And it gives you those distinct horizontal blue lens flares across the screen.
The J.J. Abrams special.
Precisely. If you want a sci-fi action movie feel, you grab the Panavision C-Series anamorphic lens in the menu. It immediately signals to the viewer's subconscious brain, this is a massive summer blockbuster.
And what if I want something weirder, like a dream sequence or a flashback? I saw in the notes they have something called the Helios lens.
The Helios 44-2. This is a legendary vintage Soviet lens. It is famous in photography circles for creating swirly bokeh. Because of a literal manufacturing flaw in the original glass design, the background doesn't just blur normally. It visually spins around the center subject. It feels disorienting, very dreamlike, almost hallucinogenic.
Wait, so the AI is purposefully hallucinating the physical flaws of a cheap Soviet lens from the 1950s.
That is the beautiful irony of all this. We're using the single most advanced digital technology in human history to painstakingly recreate the physical imperfections of cheap, old glass, because that is what feels real to us. As humans, we actually crave the flaw. Perfect AI generation feels sterile.
That is almost poetic. We want the machine to make mistakes, just very specific aesthetic mistakes. And beyond the lens choice, we can even control the aperture. So f1.4 versus f11.
All right, this controls your depth of field.
Yeah.
f1.4 is what I call dream mode. The depth of field is razor thin. The character's eyes are in sharp focus, but their ears are already blurry. The entire background is just obliterated into soft colors. It creates intense emotional isolation. If you really want the audience to feel what the character is feeling in a close-up, you go f1.4.
And F11.
F11 is clarity. Everything from the foreground to the background is in sharp focus. The hero, the car behind him, the mountain 10 miles in the distance. You use that for complex action scenes or sweeping establishing landscapes.
There's one more feature in this Cinema Studio suite that I think is a total game changer for workflow. The relight feature.
This is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Usually if you generate an image and the composition is perfect but the lighting is completely wrong, you just have to re-roll the dice. Start over and hope you get lucky again. Relight lets you take an existing generated image and change the light source after the fact.
So we have a generated picture of two people at a romantic candlelit dinner, and I can say to the system, actually make it a neon red horror scene.
Yes. And the AI intelligently relights the faces. It moves the shadows across the cheekbones based on the new light source. It changes the color temperature reflecting off the skin. But, and this is the crucial part, it does not change the character's facial expression or their physical position in the frame. It manages to separate the light data from the geometry data.
That is massive for editing. It means you can actually fix it in post, just like a real movie.
Exactly. It removes so much of the frustration.
Yeah. And there is always a big but hanging over this platform. All of this fancy gear talk, the Alexas, the Helios lenses, the anamorphic flares, it all implies that the underlying engine actually works, that the car runs when you press the gas.
Right.
And as we established earlier, Higgsfield is mostly using other people's engines. So let's move to section 4, the model wars.
The engine room. Higgsfield gives you the steering wheel and the fancy dashboard, but Kling, Vio, and Sora are the ones actually burning the fuel to make the video. And let me tell you, they drive very, very differently.
Let's break down the report card on these models. First up in the integrated lineup is Kling 2.6. This is the Chinese model that kind of came out of nowhere to dominate the space recently.
Kling is widely being referred to in the community as the Physics King, or, my personal favorite nickname, the Cheap Destroyer.
The Cheap Destroyer, I like that. Has a nice ring to it. Why Physics King, though?
Because it seems to natively understand how physical bodies actually move in three-dimensional space. There was a very specific test done by reviewers with a shadowboxing prompt. In almost all other models, if you ask for a guy aggressively shadowboxing, his arms might literally phase through his own torso.
Right, dream physics. Or his boxing glove just blips out of existence when it moves too fast.
Exactly. Or his feet float an inch off the ground. But Kling understood the complex rotation of the shoulders. It understood weight transfer, the fact that when you throw a heady right hook, your left foot has to pivot on the floor to generate power. It understood the fundamental rule that solid objects cannot pass through other solid objects.
That is a remarkably high bar for an AI that is basically just guessing pixels.
It is, and it handles complex camera commands beautifully. If you say drone shot flying over a city or crane up from the street to a rooftop, Kling actually listens to the spatial direction. It understands 3D space.
But it has a major downside, right?
The audio. Kling generates native audio now, but it is very weak. It sounds incredibly robotic, metallic, almost like it is underwater. It is absolutely not usable for serious human dialogue.
Okay, so Kling is your second unit director. You use it for the big action shots, the explosions, the stunts, but maybe not for the heartfelt emotional monologue. Which brings us perfectly to Google Veo 3.1.
The audio and dialogue king.
There was a whisper test mentioned in the source material that sounded fascinating. Describe what happened there.
This was equally creepy and impressive. The reviewer prompted a character leaning in and saying, "Come closer, I have a secret." Most AI audio models really struggle with whispers. They don't understand the nuance. They usually just generate a normal speaking voice and mechanically lower the volume. It sounds like a badly compressed MP3 file.
Right, it doesn't have the breathiness.
Exactly. Veo, however, actually understood the physical texture of a whisper. The heavy breathiness, the way the vocal cords crack a little bit when you force air through them quietly. It sounded incredibly intimate and undeniably human. And the lip sync on the generated video matched the audio perfectly.
So Veo is the actor's model. It's for the drama.
It is. But it has a very weird specific hallucination problem with camera movements. One reviewer noted that when they asked for a sweeping drone shot, Veo sometimes literally put a plastic drone inside the visual shot.
Right, like you actually see a DJI drone buzzing around in the picture instead of being the camera.
Yes. It didn't understand the instruction to be the drone camera. It thought the prompt meant, show me a picture of a drone flying. It took the text entirely too literally.
That is hilarious. Here's your drone shot, sir. Look at the lovely drone.
Exactly. And beyond that, Veo tends to severely oversharpen human faces. Everyone looks a little bit too high definition, almost like plastic mannequins if you aren't careful with the prompting.
And finally, we have to talk about the big name, the one that arguably started this current massive hype cycle, OpenAI's Sora 2.
The text-to-video powerhouse. Sora's strength isn't necessarily realistic physics like Kling or perfect dialogue like Vio. Its true strength is abstract, conceptual understanding.
Give me an example of what you mean by conceptual.
If you prompt an ant reacting to sudden motion with fear, that is a deeply complex, abstract concept. An ant does not have a human face. It doesn't have eyebrows to furrow. How do you visually show fear in an insect?
Most models would just draw a static ant or maybe put a cartoon sweat drop on its head.
Right. But Sora gets the underlying concept. It animates the antenna twitching frantically. It creates a rapid skittering motion backwards away from the camera. It understands the underlying idea of the prompt better than any of its competitors.
So it is the conceptual artist of the group.
Yes, but the actual video footage it produces is often very grainy. It can be quite noisy. It is prone to weird morphing glitches. And crucially for our Higgsfield discussion, Sora is very, very expensive to run compared to the others.
So if I am an action director, I want Kling. If I am doing an indie drama heavily focused on dialogue, I want VO. And if I have a weird, abstract, high-concept art film, I want Sora.
And Higgsfield's entire sales pitch is, why choose? We've integrated all of them. Just pick the one you need from the drop-down menu for that specific shot.
Which sounds amazing, in theory. But this brings us to the harsh reality check of the episode, Section 5, the controversy. Because when you actually start using these tools on a daily basis, things get really messy.
Yeah, we have to talk about the melted faces.
Melted faces. This comes directly from a pretty brutal, no-holds-barred review by that user we mentioned, Euroflasher. He tested those fancy camera tools we just hyped up, the Orbit, the Pan, the Dolly, and his results were decidedly not cinematic.
To put it very mildly, he called his experience a 360 tour of facial destruction.
Paint the picture for us. What actually happens when you click Orbit?
Okay, imagine you have a beautiful, photorealistic shot of a young blonde woman facing the camera. You use the Orbit tool to tell the AI to spin the camera in a circle around her head. As the camera moves to the side profile, the AI has to mathematically invent what her ear looks like because it wasn't in the original image. Then it has to invent the back of her head. Then the other ear.
That seems reasonable. It's filling in the blanks.
But the AI literally forgets who she is halfway through the rotation. So you start with a young blonde woman. As the camera turns, she morphs into an elderly man. Then as it reaches the back of the head, she turns into a blurry, terrifying demon. Then as it comes back around to the front, she turns back into a woman, but now she's wearing thick glasses and has a short brown haircut.
It is an absolute nightmare.
Euroflasher brilliantly called it the witness protection program in motion. It stops being a camera tool and acts like a random character generator mid-shot.
But why does this happen? If Higgsfield has all these great tools, why does it fail so spectacularly?
It comes back to the wrapper issue. Higgsfield is layering their specific camera commands on top of underlying models like Kling. But Kling wasn't necessarily built from the ground up to take those exact coordinate instructions from Higgsfield's interface. There is a massive translation error happening. Higgsfield code says, rotate camera 90 degrees left. Kling receives that and says, okay, I will generate a completely new image that looks vaguely like a rotation. But in doing so, it loses the strict reference of the original face.
So the UI promises absolute director control, but the underlying engine result is just complete chaos.
Exactly. You pull the lever expecting a slow pan, and you get a slot machine roll of random faces. And then there was the revelation about the fake tech.
Oh, this is the juicy part.
Higgsfield heavily advertises its native effects. These are literal buttons in the interface for things like smoke, explosions, or stylish scene transitions. You just click a button that says explosion, and boom, you get fire in your shot.
Isn't like a standard video editing feature? Premiere has effects like that.
But deep dive investigations by users show that these are not proprietary physics engines built by Higgsfield. When you click that explosion button, Higgsfield is secretly just sending a text prompt macro to Kling or Minimax that simply says, add an explosion to this image.
So it is just a text shortcut disguised as a software tool?
It is a macro. They are essentially cosplaying technology. They are pretending to have this robust, native VFX engine. But behind the curtain, they're just typing prompts into another AI on your behalf. And they are charging you a premium for the privilege of clicking their button instead of you just typing the word explosion yourself.
That feels incredibly deceptive.
It definitely treads a very fine line. It is a UI convenience, sure. Some people might like not having to type. But marketing it as a native tool strongly implies they built the underlying physics tech They didn't.
And speaking of bad marketing decisions, oh
Yeah.
boy, did they step in it on Twitter?
They really did. There is aggressive startup marketing, and then there's just pure, unadulterated self-sabotage.
Let's talk about the tweet. Quote, "We just ended 20 more creative jobs," unquote.
Yeah. They were rolling out a new motion design tool for the platform, and the official company account posted a promotional video of the tool in action with the caption, "We just ended 20 more creative jobs."
Who approved that? Who is running their social media? Read the room.
It was clearly meant to be edgelord rage bait. They thought, controversy drives engagement, let's stir the pot. But when your entire target audience is creatives, filmmakers, graphic designers, storyboard artists, telling them that your explicit goal is to destroy their livelihood is a spectacularly bold strategy.
It caused a massive PR disaster.
Rightfully so. The artist community was furious. It completely alienated the exact demographic they need to adopt the tool to make it successful. It signaled to the market, we don't care about art or empowering you. We only care about replacing you for corporate efficiency.
And then there's the ongoing saga of their unlimited plan.
This is a classic read the fine print situation. They sold a subscription tier, marketed as an unlimited plan for a flat monthly fee. Generate as much video as you want, they said.
Sounds way too good to be true for server costs.
It was too good to be true. Users quickly reported that once you toggle your account into unlimited mode, you immediately get stuck in a processing queue, a purgatory queue. You wait hours for a single clip, sometimes days. The generation just hangs at 0% and never starts. But if you switch your account back to credit mode, where you are actively paying money per second of generated video boom, the generation starts instantly.
So it is unlimited only in the sense that you can wait in line for an unlimited amount of time.
Pretty much. It turns out unlimited simply meant lowest possible server priority. It is like buying an unlimited flight pass, but you are only allowed to board the plane if it is completely empty. And in the AI world, the server plane is never, ever empty.
And finally, on the controversy list, the platform suspension.
Yes. They were actually suspended on X, formerly Twitter. They were using incredibly aggressive, bot-like marketing tactics. Mass DMs, automated auto-replies to anyone mentioning AI video. X's spam algorithm flagged them as a malicious bot operation and just nuked the account for a while.
It really paints a picture of a tech company that is moving very fast and breaking things, but mostly breaking their own reputation.
It is the classic Silicon Valley growth at all costs mindset. But in the creative industry, trust is your primary currency. If professional artists do not trust you, they will not build their complex production workflows on your platform. They don't want their tools to mock them on Twitter or scam them with fake unlimited plans.
Yet, despite all of that, despite the melted faces, the fake tech, the bad tweets, people are still using this platform in huge numbers, and more importantly, they are making real money. Which brings us to Section 6, monetization and the AI influencer economy.
This brings us all the way back to Dolly,
Our unhinged 2 a.m. queen.
the microeconomy springing up around these synthetic characters is fascinating. We are actively seeing the rise of the AI influencer as a completely legitimate, highly lucrative business model.
How does it actually work? Walk me through the business plan of an AI influencer.
Step 1. You create the character persona.
Yeah.
Let's call our new character Veronica. You define her specific niche. Maybe she is a high-end luxury travel vlogger. You use Soul ID to meticulously train a consistent model of her face.
Got it. Step 2.
Step 2 is content generation. You use popcorn and motion control to generate footage of Veronica walking the streets of Paris, eating omakase sushi in Tokyo, driving a sports car in Dubai. And note, you are doing all of this while sitting in your sweatpants in your bedroom in Ohio.
And step 3 is profit, I assume.
Yes.
How do you monetize fake travel?
Brand deals. This is where it gets absolutely wild. Major brands are starting to actively prefer virtual talent over real humans.
Really?
Why?
Is it just the novelty factor of AI?
No, it is pure logistics and cost reduction. Think about traditional user-generated content, or UGC. If a massive brand like L'Oreal wants to hire a real human influencer to shoot a campaign in Paris, they have to pay their exorbitant day rate, plus a business class flight, plus the Ritz-Carlton, plus a hair and makeup team, a lighting guy, a photographer, and then the human influencer might get sick, or they might see something wildly offensive on Twitter the next day and get canceled, dragging the brand down with them.
With Veronica, none of that happens.
Exactly. No flights, no hotels, no ego on set. She is never late. She never ages. She never says anything controversial because she doesn't have a brain. And you can shoot the Paris campaign and the Tokyo campaign in the exact same afternoon for the cost of server compute credits.
And there's a specific subgenre of this we saw in the research called the tech review hack that is particularly clever.
This is a wild loophole we are seeing on YouTube and TikTok. You have an AI avatar, let's say our tech guy Jake, holding a real physical product, say the newest DJI drone or a specific shade of Dior lipstick.
But how do they get the actual product perfectly into the AI's hand? Does the creator hold it and then face swap themselves?
No, it is entirely generated. You upload a reference photo of the physical product from the manufacturer's website. The AI seamlessly composites that exact product into the avatar's hand. And because the avatar is trained on a consistent face using Soul ID, it looks exactly like a real YouTuber sitting in their studio actually reviewing the camera.
But Jake isn't real. The studio doesn't exist, and the camera was never actually in the room.
Exactly. It is a completely synthetic endorsement.
Honestly, that is incredibly dystopian.
It completely erodes the psychological concept of proof. When you see a video of a human holding a product, your primitive brain says, okay, they have it in their hand, it is real. They tested it. AI completely severs that link. You are essentially watching a ghost review a hologram.
And Higgsfield actively encourages this entire ecosystem with their Higgsfield Earn program.
Which is basically a system of paying creators directly for views. It is a way to financially incentivize people to populate their specific platform with high-quality, viral content. They want you to use their tools to make the next dolly.
But before you can make that money, you need computing credits to run the generations. And this leads to what users call the free credits hustle.
Oh, the ritual.
The ritual. We read all about this in the user Discord leaks. Because Higgsfield notoriously does not have a normal, accessible free trial, users have to perform these elaborate tasks on Twitter just to get a few minutes of computing time.
It is gamified digital labor. The company will post, and you have to like it, repost it, leave a specific comment, and DM their account within a strict 8-hour window. If you do the intricate little dance perfectly, the algorithm drops a few generation credits into your account.
It is literally dance monkey dance.
It is. It is a very cyberpunk concept when you step back and look at it. Trading your personal social media reputation and engagement for raw GPU compute time, you are literally paying for server access with your social clout.
It is the ultimate transactional relationship for the digital age. So let's try to bring this all home. We have covered the staggering tech, the corporate drama, the influencer money. What is our final verdict on Higgsfield AI as it stands today?
It is, without a doubt, an incredibly powerful yet wildly chaotic toolbox.
It aggregates the absolute best models on the planet. Kling, Veo, Sora. It gives you that necessary layer of precision control with Cinema Studio and Soul ID that makes directing actually possible. You aren't just slot machine prompting anymore. You are meticulously building shots.
But the caveat is massive. It is very expensive. The marketing is aggressive and sometimes downright offensive to the people it's trying to court. And the tools are still very much in beta, no matter what they claim. You will get melted faces. You will get random alien text on your shirts. You will get incredibly frustrated.
It is not a magic wand. Not yet, anyway.
No, but it represents a fundamental shift in the industry. We are rapidly moving from a world of generating, just typing a prompt and getting a random video, to a world of directing. The traditional barrier to entry is completely gone. Anyone, anywhere, can create a high-end commercial or a digital character with a deep, complex backstory.
The technology of creation is fully democratized. But I think that leads to a much bigger final question for us to ponder.
Right. When the novelty of all this finally wears off, when we're all completely used to seeing perfect lighting, flawless anamorphic lens flares, and hyper-realistic AI actors, will the underlying stories actually be good enough to keep us watching?
Because technology can easily give you the look of an Arri Alexa 35, but it absolutely cannot give you the human vision required to make art.
Exactly. A boring, soulless story shot on a simulated IMAX camera is still just a boring, soulless story. The digital tools are getting exponentially better every week, but the actual storytelling, finding the humanity in the narrative, that is still entirely on us.
That is the truth. When anyone can make a blockbuster film in their bedroom, what actually makes a story human when the human element of production is completely removed? It is something to think about. So for you listening, if you want to dip your toes into this Wild West, maybe try the popcorn feature, or go look up those Cinema Studio lens recipes we talked about. See the incredible difference between a spherical and an anamorphic AI generation for yourself. It is a deeply fascinating rabbit hole to fall down.
Just remember to watch out for the melting faces.
Always watch out for the melting faces. That is all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.